Okay, we are live on the Teflon Tales with me after a little bit of technical glitch. We are back with Sumedha Arun. Welcome, Sumedha.
Thank you.
So, Sumedha, I'm going to go back to how you and I met virtually. This was way back in March, and thanks to the LinkedIn algorithm, I got this in my feed, and I'm going to read it out. It says, "Hey, LinkedIn community, it's time to take community and helping each other out to the next level." And you called out a bunch of folks, and all you wanted to do is cover topics like networking, immigration, leadership management, marketing tips and tricks. And get this, and I'm talking to the audience over here, is the idea is you want to join in, please like this post, share, or comment, but this is not going to be highly produced. This is just a bunch of passionate people wanting to help others during these trying times. We're not asking for anything in return. I'm going to pause over there, right? COVID hit. Obviously, a lot of us are still in the midst of it. And everybody kind of went into their shell. It's all about how do I survive, my job, my health, loved ones, etc. And here you are building a community and reaching out to others. Talk about the why and how that, what sort of gratification did you get out of that?
So there are a bunch of things to unpack. Firstly, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here and share the story. The initiative was called Humanity for the Win, and I cannot take all credit because there are a bunch of us who came together to do it. Um, there are a couple of things. One, I think Bill Gates often talks about this very rare, like true altruism. The reason we help people is because we may feel better about ourselves. There
Yep.
may be some gratification that we think that we've played a part in our society. So I would say I'm far from true altruism. I think a part of me does it because I feel like I'm making a difference. That's the first reason. The second reason is I saw a lot of posts on LinkedIn and just people trying to reach out to help. There are this has been a catastrophe in many ways,
Yep.
personally for me and just the world in so many different ways. A lot of us do have our jobs intact, and thank God for that. But many of us have lost our livelihood, lost our loved ones. If there is any silver lining, which is kind of hard to find, is that there is an increased hyper need for humans to come together, and which probably wasn't there. So even though this has led to more divisions because we
Mhm.
can't fly and it's kind of halted globalization, it's also made people come together through
Yep.
Zoom and through technologies like these. So it was more so that this is bad. Some of us are in a position to help, and what can we do? I went through a testing job search a few years ago, and I saw that a lot of people lost their jobs, and they were trying to find jobs, and these were skills that I've learned and which are easy to give. And I can give a small example which sparked this. So I live in New York, and I'm a consultant by profession, and I travel Monday to Thursday pre-COVID, and I used to get my nails done, a very womanly thing. And
Mhm.
I go to the same lady every couple of weeks. So, I realized that she probably lost her livelihood. So I gave her a call, just checking in, how she's doing. And of course, she was upset. And, even the stimulus is unable to cover a lot of expenses. So I started thinking what she can do. In this time when a lot of businesses were getting shut down, there's certain businesses that were roaring, like Amazon, Instacart, Walmart, who were upskilling their people and hiring customer service representatives. So I told her, why don't you do one of these roles? And she said, I don't know anything about customer service. I said, but the fact that I'm coming to you every couple of weeks means that there is something that you remember that it's repeat service.
Yep.
And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what a resume is. And I said, I'll help you through it. So she got a job for $55,000 a year. For many of us, it may not be a lot of money, but for someone, it can be a lot of money. And once she got hired, I helped her through the interview process. And then I said, you know what, Eileen, there's usually these companies have a referral bonus. You'll be able to get your friends in, and you'll get a bonus, they'll get a bonus. And this kind of became a trickle effect. So 15 of them got hired through this.
Wow.
And that's what led to this initiative. And I said, there are transferable skills and there are ways that we can help each other. Do I have a couple of $1 million to give? I do not. I wish I did, but I have my time and I can give my skills to people. And then I found like minded people. And I think a lot of people want to help. They sometimes just need an avenue and a direction to come together. And that's what I did.
Unbelievable. So as you were talking through this, and this is really what Teflon epitomizes, right? The ability to get hot. And this is, I mean, you are a customer, she is a salon owner, and that was the relationship. And then, but you went two steps, three steps beyond that, saying, okay, how is she hurting in her life right now? And you were not the customer anymore. You were the ability to say, how can I help you channelize so you can find something? And then the network effect just kicked in. So Hats off to you on that. Right now, coming back, and again, I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, right? And I have it in red over here, changing the world each day, paying it forward. There are, I don't know, 700 million LinkedIn users, some crazy amount, right? And 95% of them talk about who they are and how they have accomplished a lot, which is great for the world to see. But to get to this level of clarity and thinking, saying, hey, this is ultimately what matters, right? Changing the world and paying it forward. So talk about your journey to get to this point at this level of mental sophistication and purpose built life, which many of us find hard to achieve. You seem to have achieved that in a relatively short time, but you must have gone through a few iterations or revolutions, if you will, to get to this point. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, there have been many stumbles on the way, and there continue to be setbacks of a certain kind or the other. There's so many things. I was raised by the world's most loving family and parents in India who believed that I could achieve whatever I put myself on. And I think sometimes having the faith that you can achieve gets you long. And my sister and I have a younger sister, were raised in a patriarchal society, but my parents never for a second made us feel any less. And from the day I was born, they said, you change the world the way you want to. In India, 2nd of October is Gandhi's birthday, and we
Mhm.
celebrate as a national holiday. And for the longest time, Indian parents and Indian relatives ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, the frequent answers are a doctor, an astronaut, or a lawyer. And I used to always say, like, my birthday should be like a national holiday. I should have created so much impact on people that
Yeah.
there is a holiday. So there's always been a lot of drive and a lot of ambition. Having said that, I still am unclear as to what that impact's going to be. I hope it keeps changing. I hope it's in the people that I work with in my day job, in the businesses I work with professionally, the women, poverty. I don't know which it's going to be, but that's one thing. Just growing up, it's been a really big part of who I am. I also think I've tasted success relatively early in my life, and I've had a lot of cheerleaders who brought me here. I had my own company, which I sold, when I was 21. So I knew what success looked like, and I realized I played soccer professionally for a very long time, and I realized you only succeed if people around you succeed.
Yeah.
So I often hear, you're too kind," and maybe, but there is a business advantage to it. The day you start caring about people around you, you help the ecosystem. So all of this, I'm no Mother Teresa. I am not. I do this because we as a whole grow when people around us grow. So, and I also do strongly feel, if you travel a lot, which I did, you have to put your oxygen mask first before to help others. I'm able to help more people because I'm at a position of strength and of stability that I can go to bed with. I have a comfortable home. I'm relatively stable. So I understand that a lot of people may not be able to give because they may be fighting their own battles. And I have my own battles. All of us do. Mental health, physical health, financial health, people, relationships. Some of us are just able to be at a point where they can give. And I've had the fortune where a lot of people have helped me. And it's all of this is learned behavior. When someone does it for you, you feel more prepared to do it for others.
Yeah, that's the karma machine, right? It's like again, you mentioned something over there which for many folks it is hard to put a finger on it, saying, okay, I've come to a point where I can give back. Usually it is okay, so you've come to a certain point, you want to go from director to VP or senior VP, you want to go from a 10,000 square foot house to a, I don't know, million square foot house. And so there is never an end to that. So that's the first point, right? How do you get to the point of realization of saying it doesn't matter if my house gets bigger or if I get a bigger title right now, unless I'm able to create a community. And then the second thing that you mentioned, which I mean, again, for the viewers and listeners, please follow Sumedha on LinkedIn to understand the level of resonance she has with the community and how that comes back. So for me, I've seen it play out, right? Since we connected back in March and I reached out to you saying, hey, this is something that everybody should be looking forward to, because every post of yours is all about giving, right? And I'm grateful to have met people like you and seeing that effect. But how do you tell somebody, and how do you kind of give, what pointers can you give to the viewers and listeners saying, this is a point where you have to hit pause and then see how you can bring others into the fold?
Yeah, I think everyone has their unique ability to give. You know, I think what Bill Gates is doing for the world, I'm a big fan. I cannot compete at that level. What, when you have more wealth, you can give out more, but wealth is not the only way to pay it forward.
Yeah.
I think all of us have some amount of autonomy on our time, and you can help give 30 minutes of your time. In India, we have help. You can sponsor their education. You can spend time teaching them a computer lesson. You can go and tip someone more than 20% and make their day because restaurants are hit really badly. So there is no like secret formula. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It's the small things that really, really matter. And this ocean of really small things becomes a culture and becomes a movement. So even if I help one person in a couple of weeks, that's something I can live with. So there are no grand gestures. And that's what I want to reiterate. You don't have to reach a certain amount of wealth, a certain amount of square footage in your house, a certain title to help. You can always help. A sophomore can help a freshman. You can give your notes. You can help them how you got by. You can help your frat brothers. There's always a way. And I think a lot of us are doing it without even knowing. And then maybe some of us can just redirect our energy and channelize it.
So, Sumedha, one of the other things, and I have this post in front of me of yours that I'm going to talk about, right, is the ability to actually be comfortable in one's own shoes, right? And that isn't talking about your successes. In fact, it's talking about the opposite, right? What are the things that you're willing to let go? So this particular one is a graphic that you put on about how your goals have changed. And your first goal was get married before 30. Now it's get married when I'm ready. Retire with millions, retire with memories instead. Get a high paying job, get a job that you're passionate about. Be the best, be present. Make my parents proud by being successful? No, make my parents proud by being happy. Find an attractive partner? No, find someone who I deeply connect with. And finally, live a long life to live a fulfilled life. So each of these itself is something that many people may be thinking about internally, right? So, and you have trouble voicing it in a social circle. And here you are standing in front of your, I don't know, 18,000 plus followers and whoever else LinkedIn feeds this into, and talking about something that you're completely unafraid and you're able to put your vulnerable self out there. Again, talk a little bit about how that sense of gravity and sense of anchor came about.
Yeah. Being vulnerable is hard for everyone. There are different levels that someone is more open to. I am a trained therapist, so I'm a little more attuned to dealing with vulnerability. Having said that, it's still very hard. It's hard every day. Um, if you are happy within, and if you're confident, there's a long way. And we drive confidence from the people who raised us, from the people we live with, from the people we interact with, more often than not. In any society, may it be Eastern or Western, society puts these definitions of success and of what happiness looks like. And it could be being with a partner by an X age, it could be having kids by another
Yeah.
age, it could be having a certain kind of house. I think it's great. They can put structure, they can give milestones to people. It can be a great motivator for you. And if that works, it's great. But I don't think anyone needs to follow any societal paths to find happiness. Happiness lies within. And all of this sounds much, it sounds very philosophical, and someone would be like, yeah, she can say this because she has a nice job and she's comfortable. Perhaps that's true. But I think it goes back to having a really fulfilled childhood. I was never really great at academics growing up, and in India, that's a really big thing. But my parents never made me feel any differently. So today, I'm the poster kid, but I wasn't always this way. So for me, it's always been what makes me really happy, and sometimes it's being okay with the fact that it may not be what it's like, and also accepting that you won't be happy every day, you won't be fulfilled every day, and then you may have the best job in the world, but there may be certain aspects of your life that aren't as fulfilled. And it's having that acceptance that it's okay, it's all right, that things will fall in place. And if they aren't falling in place, maybe it's not that time is yet. And it's this is not an overnight journey, Ashwin. Like there have been times where I wish that I would have, met certain milestones, and I've been upset because I haven't. So it's kind of a work in progress. And a lot of this I put is also like reinforcing my own theories on myself so that I follow them.
Yeah. So one of the things, again, just looking at what you do and how you do it, right? One of the things, again, I frequently ask my guests on the Teflon Tales is there's a certain overachievement mentality, right? And you want to, and again, to your point, your title itself is you want to make an impact every single day, right? At the same time, you mentioned you have to put on your own oxygen mask first. You have to take care of your own mental health and physical health before you can help others. So how do you find that sense of balance so you can be more effective tomorrow, but you have to take care of yourself today?
Yeah, I think it's a learning process. It's working in progress. For example, I really try and help everyone who reaches out to me on LinkedIn to the best of my ability. Off late, I get hundreds of messages, and I'm not able to respond to everyone just because of time constraints. And I still have a very busy consulting job and family. And I sometimes used to feel really, really guilty. And I try and respond saying, I will get back to you, give me a couple of weeks or something. And it's having that understanding that you can't be available all the time.
Yeah.
You need to sometimes taking a step back or taking a pause is actually moving forward. So I think self-care is really important. And when I say self-care, it could look so different for so many things. For some people, it's having a dog and going out for a walk with your dog. For some people, it can be watching Netflix, which is me. I love watching Netflix. And for me, it's Trevor Noah and his Trump trashing videos. So whatever it is, you have to just find your calling and, just take those 10, 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
I also, a lot of people feel this sense of putting out a persona or putting out this overachieving. If you're really, really good, you don't need to tell anyone. People will know. And that's the difference. Like Elon Musk, even though he's crazy, we still like him, even though he comes up with crazy tweets. So it's just having that ability to say that it's fine. You not every day you'll be making a difference, not every day will be great. And it's giving yourself that room to sometimes just sit in bed, have ice cream, or sit in bed and just, take it slow one of those days.
Yeah, so as you were talking, right, one of the other things that I challenge my guests with is, see, I mean, you get good, like you said, you sold a company when in your early 20s, and you got to a certain point, and at that point, that success feeds in of itself, right? Which is okay, you're certain something in the eyes of the world, and here you are trying something brand new. And as you try something brand new, you're obviously a newbie at that, right? So again, in this whole Teflon analogy, it's like, how do you create that awareness of saying, hey, your success today could be gone tomorrow, number one, but number two, for you to have a bigger impact, you need to try different things
Yeah.
for the benefit of others. So how do you do that?
I'm so glad you bring that up. And when I was growing up, very early on, I realized that I really, really like people. When I used to play on a soccer field, as a 14-year-old, you don't really know fancy words, it's change management and training and learning and leadership alignment. But I was so curious, like, why do we score more goals when we're talking to each other?
Yeah.
Like, why do we perform better when we like our coach? Why are we more perceptive to one coach over the other? And I got really curious, like, why do certain teams work better? And I took up psychology in undergrad, which is 3 years in India.
Hmm.
And then I, like most people, did campus recruiting, and I had an offer from McKinsey and Google, and I was contemplating, will I go the tech route or the consulting route? And that's, my business was almost like an idea which became so out of hand and then became a company. So even though working at McKinsey or Google is an opportunity of a lifetime, to be able to give up an offer that you had worked so hard to get, have my company. And very early on, I started giving speeches, started getting recognition in India, leaving all of that to move halfway across the world where I was absolutely a nobody. For being on the hoardings, being a somebody, and here like counting cents as opposed to counting my own currency. I
Yeah.
grew up in India with like 100-degree temperatures, moving to New York, and I didn't know you have to moisturize yourself, so my skin would peel off. I've been lost in subways so many times, and then I started to be a shrink, and I started giving therapy, and I loved it for the first couple of weeks, and then I said, I really do like people, and this is a reinforcement. But what I really want to do is I want to work with people in larger settings. So I reinvented myself. I said, I want to, but I didn't know what are the jobs that you could do with people in a company. I didn't know what that meant. And that's when I got introduced to human capital. Then I did product. Then now I do consulting. So I think you have to keep thinking. And there are a couple of reasons. One, you have to be agile.
Yeah.
You have to see where the market is going, where your skills are, because what I like today, what the person I was a few years ago, I'm not that person. So you need to stay in touch with yourself,
Yeah.
your skills, your talent, and what's in the market. I could want to do something, but if there's no money, it's probably not the best decision to do. So that's one. I think second is, I really stand by this. If you believe you can, you will. And it's kind of a privileged quote to say, because somebody might say that, I really need my day job because my kids won't be fed. So yeah, I don't want to do it. So I understand those constraints, but I truly feel like if I could give any advice to someone who was a few years younger than me or following, You don't have to follow a certain path just because it's the right one, just because it's the most used one. Getting a job at McKinsey is awesome, but if you have an idea that you want to do, or if you want to go do philanthropy, if you want to go to Africa, follow your passion, because while you're younger, you have the liberty to make those choices. And so I think that's the second part. And the third part is, you will never know. Will you fail? You probably, everyone fails, and no one wakes up wanting to fail. It's horrible, but I think it's just accepting that it's going to happen, and you can use your failures to pivot. In the moment, it feels horrible, but it will shape the way. I failed a lot, and sometimes, on LinkedIn and all these forums, you only see the achievements.
Yeah.
Nobody posts, I failed this and I failed that, but it comes. So if you're not ready to make the mistakes, you will never ever receive the success either.
I could not agree more. And again, as you were saying, being constantly aware of what's going on, how to pivot, I use this tech analogy, the CI/CD for the soul, right? Continuous integration, continuous development for the soul. We do it for products, but what about ourselves? So we have Sunil Kumar Prasad. I just want to show him over here, and he just agreed with you and me. And again, this goes back to something you posted, right? I know it's very personal. We talked about it a little before we went live. Um, it's still very recent, so I want to be very, very sensitive about it. But at the same time, I think what your family has done in terms of honoring your dad, in terms of bringing this brand new venture into Delhi called Arun. To talk a little bit about how we've talked about success, we've talked about the awareness and being able to give back, but you can also give back and you can also pivot when you're at your wit's end, or when you've been hit with tragedy. So again, how do you get that energy, positive energy, and being able to still help people while using a setback like the one that happened to drive something brand new like this?
Yeah. So it's in all honesty, it might be my brainchild, but it's my mom and sister's doing. I cannot cook to save my life, let alone bake a bread. So it's my mom and sister who are driving it. So my father was very young. He was 53 and he was on his way to work. We were very, all of us are very close. I think no one imagines losing someone. So that's kind of hard to say. But it's funny, I think maybe if he was 20 years older, would I have felt better? Maybe if he was suffering from cancer, would I have felt better? It was very unexpected. I was in LA for a meeting, and my sister called me in the middle of the night saying that my dad wasn't well, and I said, oh, just give him an Advil. Like, I took it so lightly, and she said, no, no, he's really really sick. And I said, he was quite a character, so I thought he was just doing some drama. I reached Paris. I flew to New York. From New York, went to Paris, and I quickly realized what had happened. And there are so many emotions that you go through. It's shock, it's denial, it's so many things. It continues to be very, very hard. I would be lying if I said I'm in a position of strength. I am not. I am very, very angry that this happened. I am very, very upset. I am trying to understand. You think, oh my God, we never did anything wrong, and why did this happen to us? And he didn't deserve this. And there are just so many emotions, and grief comes in so many different ways. Like, I would be in a conference call leading with a client, and I would say a word and you think. So I want to say this again, that it's very hard, and it's not that because I posted something I'm all right. That's just, I want to come out and say that. um, when all of this happened, the world kind of also took a standstill. So my mom and dad spent a lot of time in Paris as their executives in a French firm, but it's not my native country. While I was there, I don't speak French, and it was very hard to just get by and understand what happened. And just strangers helped us. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of support we got from people my dad met on the train. And he was very friendly, annoyingly friendly. And these people just stood by us by a rock. So even though, like, we were all breaking down, like, and we were away from home with no family, no friends, we still had some sort of support. So that kind of made us believe in humanity in some ways, even though in the moment it was very hard. And my sister is a really really good cook, and she started cooking a lot just to cope with grief. And you're locked up in a house. There is no social interaction because of COVID. You're scared. What if the three of us, something happens to us, because people are losing lives. You don't want to put anyone else at risk. There was more like a coping mechanism. And then after some time, I've had to fly back to New York. They went back to India. Swati kept baking just to deal with what's happening. And it became to a level that, we also don't want to become fat. So I was like, you need to start, like, do something. I said, why don't you just give it to friends and family and neighbors? And there was more like she was just doing it because there was so much production. We just had to do something. And then at a point, they just started, oh, can you give it to me again? Can you give it to me? And so it became a repeat pattern. And then I told my sister, I said, why don't you consider? And my mom is a C-suite, and my sister still has her day job. She does digital marketing, so this is not a full-time venture.
Yeah.
Um, so she was very against the idea of selling something, which was, so I said, Swati, you don't have to sell, like, this is not a money making initiative. We could use this for something. And then her best friend gave the idea to doing this behind my dad's name, which was Arun, and that's how it came into life. And we've crossed over 200,000 in revenue. And my sister continues to do it. She wakes up at 5 a.m. She bakes. She does her day job. She's really the socialistic one. She works with connecting brands to masses through a socialist lens, like getting Tinder to India with a socialist lens of the LGBTQ community in Hindi in villages. So this was really my sister's doing. I am just the brain behind it, of like marketing and setting it up. And my mom was a procurement manager who gets all the ingredients. And my sister does the savory breads, and my mom does the cakes. So this is the backstory. My It's a void that can never be filled. My dad also had a very large presence, and he was so annoying. Like, he was a morning person, and he would wake up and open the windows, and it used to piss me off. And I like staying up, so there are things that you think about and you smile, and they also make you cry. It's it's I will live his legacy as long as I live, and this is a way of remembering him and also making a difference. If I could help one more person to have their father, their husband, their brother, their sister, their mother, to get 10 more days with them, a year with them. And that's what it's about. Is we don't have our dad anymore, but if I could give time to someone else. So yeah, I just want to make sure that people don't think, for some reason people think it's me. I cannot bake. We just look really alike, my sister and I, and it's her in the picture.
Wow. So again, it's just going back to your LinkedIn title, because you are living that, changing the world every day and paying it forward. So one last question, right? If there is one piece of advice you want to give to, again, we've talked about this, everybody is in a different state of mind, financial health, business wise, family wise, etc. But is there one universal thing that we can all take away from this, that you would say, hey, this is something that all of us can do right now, again, and hopefully come out better on the other side, not just individually for ourselves, but for the people around us?
Yeah, I'll give two things. One which is inward individually, and one outside. I think one is that, do remember that taking care of yourself is not being selfish. Sometimes people think that buying something nice or going to the gym or buying organic is a luxury and it's an extra cost. Anything that you invest in yourself is not a cost. You are your best asset, and think of yourself like a business. You invest in your best resources. There's a reason why McKinsey and Amazon hire such expensive resources, because the value that you put on people is the product. So take time for yourself. Like, this is a really, really hard time, and there is no right way of doing this. So whatever gets you through, just do that. That would be my first. And second is, I think I said this earlier, is you don't have to go to a charity, you don't have to go to a church, you don't need to do anything big to help someone. If you can help anyone in a need, that's everyone can make a difference if they decided to do it. And if all of us did even one small thing every month, in totality, it trickles down. And when you do it for someone, they will do it for someone else. And that's how we build communities and we build culture. So I always tell everyone that it's not that you have to write a check. It's not that you have to go to an orphanage. It's just really, really small things. It could be having a coffee chat with someone who's doing their job search and looking at their resume. It's something that small that I think all of us can give 30 minutes for. So find your medium. And the other thing is, like, reach out to people. Most of us have helped people in our lives, and if for LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever your sources, or in person, which is hard now, is like, reach out to people. I think this is can be very, very isolating, just physically, socially. So if talking to people is your medium, make sure that you're doing that and staying in sync with people.
Absolutely. Again, Sumedha, thank you for sharing all of this. Again, not just what people have seen of your, I've seen of your LinkedIn, but your journey behind that, and keep doing what you're doing. You are paying it forward. You're making a big difference to the community. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.